This is Musings and Counsel from London Baker Law with Debbie London Baker.
So I'm only licensed in Florida, and which I say, and the west coast of Florida got hit by two major hurricanes. I was in a networking group last week where they said, if you had a superpower, what would it be? I said, mine would be healing. There's a lot of healing that's needed as an aftermath. Certainly I had sympathy for people who went through Katrina, and Katrina was probably a lot worse than what we had. And Andrew, which came through Florida back in 2004, or so, I don't even remember, quite a while ago, and did a lot of damage. But I have personal experience with this one, not personal, meaning we were spared. Helene had no damage. Milton, we had a couple of trees down, but no house damage, no flooding. Very, very fortunate. And I know people who didn't, who were not nearly as fortunate. I know 3 people who lost their homes completely. One lost part of his home in Helene, and then was ready to rebuild, and then the roof got ripped off in Milton. So now he's not rebuilding. So for me, we talk about estate planning, and we're going to, one of these days we're going to really talk about probate. But for me, what came out of these horrors is I have no idea how many people may have had to take somebody to a hospital. A single person living on their own, no family nearby, had to go to a hospital and had nobody who could speak for them because they didn't have a healthcare surrogate. I have no idea how many people may have lost all access, no internet, have to pay bills. I have a very good friend in Clearwater who's still without internet. His provider has just not been able somehow to find him in the loop and get his internet back. He has no access to his bank accounts. I'm sure he does everything. I would imagine he does everything online without a power of attorney for somebody to go to a bank and get money. I would imagine that credit cards, mortgages, they'll all waive fees for a while as a result of the natural disaster. But still, the additional stress of not being able to do what you do normally and do what you could is added to the stress of everything else. And we've talked, here, I have not been an attorney forever. I wouldn't have thought about these things, before I graduated from law school and stuff like that. It would have seemed irrelevant or, it's really not going to happen. It's never going to happen, right?
Right.
I mean, it'll certainly never happen to me. It might happen to you next door, but it'll never happen to me, right? So what I'm seeing is, and the person who lost their 1977 manufactured home had her documents and the thumb drive, because I supply a thumb drive, and the thumb drive got destroyed. So never mind the documents having been probably destroyed, but I need to create another thumb drive for her, which is fine. So the legal documents are things that are peace of mind documents. They truly are peace of mind documents. And the peace of mind is, if you have the documents, and we made sure to take our documents with us. So, the peace of mind documents are when you need them, if you need them in a situation which you couldn't possibly anticipate. The one friend who lost her house here locally lived in the house on Davis Island, low, 35 years, never had water in the house, has been through some tough hurricanes. There wasn't a single tree, plant, shrub damaged. It all came in through the back, 3 feet of water, everything. Same thing for the house next to her. A friend who'd lived in her house for 40 years, never flooded, never. The second friend's going to rebuild. The first friend's going to sell, she hopes. The people on the outer islands, to not have the documents is terrifying in any case. If there's a natural disaster, you want to have something in place so somebody can help you. You want somebody to have copies of the documents that name them so they can talk to a doctor or sign something to get money out of your bank account or go to a branch. Most people, I branch bank locally, so I don't know, if all of my banks got washed out, it might be an interesting thing. Although they also have branches out of state. But for people certainly who bank with the big ones, power of attorney for a big bank like Chase or PNC or Fifth Third, I think they can at least show up and have somebody look at that document and say, okay, we could help you. Healthcare surrogates, the same thing. I'm sure there are people who wound up in hospitals with asthma attacks, people who went back, the friend who lost everything. She didn't do it because she'd opened all the doors and the windows and she had some fans blowing. But the general thing was everybody in the house, if they were there for more than 10 minutes, should have been like triple masked. Because the mold starts immediately. It takes like almost no time for mold to start. Triple mask. So I'm sure there are people who wound up in hospitals and emergency rooms with lung problems, regardless of whether they had asthma. And again, if somebody can't speak for you, if something happens, then actually everybody, the whole system gets stressed. Because what do the doctors do? They know what they're supposed to do, but what do? They're not going to let you die, but what are they going to do? And it's interesting. I spoke to a friend of mine last week, and I said, "How are you doing?" She had no damage. There were trees down in her neighborhood. She lost part of her lanai, but nothing. And there were people who posted on Facebook, "We're such a first world country. Like I'm worried about my lanai, right? Or I'm even worried about my power being out because my power is going to come back." And she said, but she drives around her neighborhood and she feels like she's in a war zone because all these trees, some of them probably 100 years old, completely uprooted and laid on their sides by the winds.
Hey, Debbie, what was the thought in your mind when you were coming back from Boca, what you were going to see?
Oh, thanks. I was trying to imagine it. And until we got within we tried to turn up one road, just not to avoid anything, and it was closed. And I saw this morning on Facebook, it's still closed, and because it was flooded, and nobody has any idea when it would open. For damage, it was driving down streets that I drive all the time and not recognizing them because of all the debris. Now, it had been 8 days, so a lot of people, I went to visit a friend who had lived next to a river. She did evacuate because friends were adamant with her. She evacuated. The river had a 24-foot storm surge. So two vehicles were lost, everything in her lowest level, which it wasn't a basement per se, because it wasn't like underground, right? But the lowest level, totally washed out. And I pulled into her neighborhood and I thought I was going the way I would normally go, but I made a wrong turn because all these trees that had been in front of a house were now down and I had no idea where I was. So, and still now, tons of debris. We just had yesterday or Saturday, Art had 3 monster trees cut down that were near a piece of property he rents. And that the woman who lives there has her own manufactured home on there. The home per se was not hit, but the trees, the property will be unrecognizable. Fences down, a utility shed destroyed. Fortunately, no person, no prop, no people, no animals. Her cats are fine. So it's unrecognizable in a lot of places. It's unrecognizable, and I'm sure some of those trees were 100 years old. I am sure. The ones that fell down here were probably 35 years old.
So what was going through your head? You hadn't seen your house yet. You didn't know what to expect.
Well, I'd been told, fortunately, that there was no damage, but it was still interesting to drive down the lane and come in the driveway and see the driveway was blocked by a tree that had fallen down across the driveway. So we had to come around it, and then to come in the house and kind of look around and just see how lucky we were, because there was no damage. I mean,
Had your electricity been restored?
Yeah, I wasn't coming up. Well, we're on a well, so I wasn't coming home till power was back. I could have managed probably. We have a generator without power if I had water, but I wasn't coming back until we had water. So yes, and like I said, I know people who went 2 weeks without power, and I think there's still very small outages. Probably for us, we are TECO. Probably for Florida Power. Probably for Duke. Where there was way bigger systemic damage than just down wires. So, and I'm traumatized by this, and I had no physical damage. So what people are going through on adrenaline still, I'm sure, with this, people are looking for homes. I mean, the one friend who lost her home that I know of, she found a place that she can stay till the end of March, which at least let her unpack. Because originally I thought she could only stay for 5 weeks. But the people who lost their 40 years, they'd been in the house for 40 years, they were looking for someplace to stay a couple of weeks ago. People can't afford what they can find. So, one woman I know might wind up moving into a community where she really shouldn't be there. What was that? Oh, wow, that was really interesting. Her credit score might not be high enough. So she's going to have to work around. But meanwhile, she's got 100% disabled husband. It's not like, oh, I can move in easily.
Right.
2 cats. And if I have to move out, it'll be horrible. So that trauma, I mean, true trauma. Anyway, we're almost out of time. I cannot say strongly enough for anybody listening. I don't care what state you're in. If you do not have current documents, your healthcare surrogate and your power of attorney and your living will for the now, and your wills or trusts or whatever for later, please, please, please do your family a favor and get it done. Just get it done. Don't do it online. Don't do online. But find a friend who has an attorney they trust. Find a prepaid legal service where it's staffed by attorneys. So anything you get is compliant with your state, and have it done. Put it in a safe place. Share it with the people who are going to have to execute. Share it with your doctors. Just know that you don't get caught off guard. Just you'll kick yourself, and your family will kick you as well.
And a backup file too. Make sure you've got
backup files, thumb drives in the cloud, something on your phone somewhere, so that if you can find it. But you want to have them. I pray about this a lot. I pray about my clients. I probably have more clients.
And she really does.
I probably have more clients who lost things that I just don't know about yet. And
this is kind of like a public service announcement today, because you're using your teaching mode, but it's so important what you're saying. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. And we'll see you again next month.
We have a great month. Bye, Rebel.
Attorney Debbie Baker.
This has been Musings and Counsel from London Baker Law. Learn more at londonbakerlaw.com. Thanks for listening.